We are back. Golenbock University. I'm Ralph Tyko. Generally, the third Michigana is here with us, Alan Blumkin, but the topic of the day is not up his alley. I'm here with Peter Golenbock, and the topic of the day is fantasy baseball. How are you, Peter?
I'm fine. My
Good.
team is in third place. I'm creeping towards the top and really thrilled about it.
My team is in fourth place, and I'm having some good days led by Aaron Judge. What
oh, my goodness. Aaron Judge. There's almost nothing else written about today on Facebook except Aaron Judge's 496-foot home run over the bleachers.
Incredible.
Incredible is right.
I have to interject something. Marty Rose and I were talking about the state of the game a little bit, and the fact that the home run is everything. The game absolutely revolves around the home run. But we were talking about some of the things that may or may not be affecting the numbers of home runs. There have been rumors, that the drug thing is still going strong, one chemist against another, covering this up, covering that up. That the ball is, in fact, juiced more so than it's been in years, and see that the weight training is effective, much more effective in baseball for hitters than pitchers. And you have any thoughts on that? I'll just say that what got the conversation between Marty and I going was the fact that the A's have a kid named Penders, a middle infielder, hit a ball the other day almost as far as, it wasn't 495, it was like 455 or something like that. Penders is like, 5'11", typical middle infielder.
Yeah, well, the A's were in St. Petersburg the last 3 days to play 4 games against the Tampa Bay Rays, and so I'm very familiar with Penders and the rest of your boys. That's quite a very good team. Quite a very good team that Oakland has, I have to tell you. Before they came in, I thought they were a sort of a so-so club, but this is a very, very good hitting ball club. And they've got some very fine rookies to boot. So,
right.
I know what you're talking about, but well, it would not surprise me that the players have figured out how to get around the drug rules, because when you're in line to make $10 million a year, and you could either make it going around the drug rules or not make it by playing it by the book. It goes without saying in high school, in college, in the pros, that those who want to make it do everything that they possibly can to make it. So that's
whatever that is.
Yeah, whatever that is.
Well, I'll tell you something. I have to thank you for giving me back rooting for the game, in a sense. You convinced me that even though we can't compare era to era anymore, we never could, because Ty Cobb played under totally different circumstances than Ted Williams, for a lot of reasons. And Ted Williams played under different circumstances than Wee Weely Killer when it was a dead ball era. So
sure.
I'm not as bitter about not being able to compare eras anymore. And you put it into perspective. All we have to do as fans is compare players from this era against players of this era. If there are, and boy, that really put me at ease with the whole drug situation. I'm not angry at Barry Bonds anymore.
Why would you be angry at? Why would anybody be angry at Barry Bonds? Now, I could see, of course, if you're rooting for San Diego or if you're rooting for Colorado, you would be mad at Barry Bonds because he beats the hell out of you. That I can understand. But right. I guarantee you, if you're rooting for San Diego or Colorado, your players are doing the same thing. They're not doing anything different than what Bonds was doing.
They're not, but Bonds was early on into it. He had the designer skills of Balco, who at that time were far ahead of it all. The Bay Area itself was famous for it all with Canseco and McGuire.
Sure.
I almost said Cespedes and McGuire, and I would have broken myself up with that one. But because I haven't been able to get Cespedes, that name right, for a lot of, and who knows if he's juicing, and who knows if anybody is juicing, and it doesn't matter. What matters is that the players
I'll tell you
find
another reason. Another reason why it doesn't matter. Aside from the fact that McGuire and Sosa and Bonds, when they were amidst all the years when they were hitting, 66 home runs a year and 62 home runs a year, and Bonds with 73 home runs a year, the owners knew exactly what they were doing. They took all the money they possibly could take. They never gave back a nickel. Never gave back a nickel. That's number one. Number two, you got a guy like Andy Pettitte, who was on the Yankees at the same time Roger Clemens was on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Andy Pettitte admitted he was taking steroids. Yes, I took steroids. And everybody went, oh, Andy is so honest that he told everybody that he's taking steroids. He should be allowed to be in the Hall of Fame because of his honesty. It's like, wait a second. What kind of logic is that? Either you're going to keep people out because they took the steroids, or they're not. But not.
Well, the Hall of Fame
whether somebody admits to it or not.
There's something epidemically wrong with the voters. Not just these years past.
Oh,
everything's been screwed up.
Yes. Well, not totally screwed up. Most of the people who go into the Hall of Fame belong in the Hall of Fame. I don't think there's any two questions about it. Now, there's some people you could argue don't belong in the Hall of Fame. People like Bowie Kuhn, who was just an idiot. He was the commissioner. On the other hand, every commissioner gets into the Hall of Fame. So if you take that as a given, you say, okay, if we have to take Kennesaw Mountain Landis, okay, we'll take Bowie Kuhn as well. But almost all of the players, most of the players deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. You can look at the stats on some of the guys. You look at, Tinker to Everett a Chance, and they're in the Hall of Fame because Franklin P. Adams wrote that wonderful poem, the saddest thing that's Tinker to Everett a Chance. But perhaps their fame from being in that poem was enough to put them in the Hall of Fame anyway. The greatest head scratcher right now is people for some reason wanting so desperately to keep as many people as possible out of the Hall of Fame. If we put Joe Jackson in the Hall of Fame, it will somehow besmirch the Hall of Fame. Well, no, it won't. No, it won't at all. In fact, if you go to the Hall of Fame, Joe Jackson is in there. Buck Weaver should be in there. Pete Rose should be in there. And, quite frankly, every one of these guys from the last 20 years, including Roger Clemens, who was only the Cy Young Award winner 7 times, Barry Bonds, who was the MVP of the National League, 7 or 8 times. You can't.
And if you want to make it a good guy conduct rule thing, I can think of 5 guys who have been, just off the top of my head, who had made mistakes and were imprisoned, who were beloved 50s guys, Duke Snider and Willie McCovey served prison time. They had some tax evasion on card show stuff.
Yes, right. Orlando Cepeda for drugs.
Right.
Yeah.
And
you're right.
Vida Blue had problems. I don't think he's in.
I don't think Vida's in there. I don't think Vida's in the Hall of Fame. quite frankly. I
No,
don't think he's in by.
but if you're gonna, like I say, if you're gonna make it a Boy Scout thing, take.
Well, look, if you're going to make a Boy Scout thing, then you don't put Ty Cobb in.
Right, or
how about
Speaker.
Yeah, how about the Texans like Rogers Hornsby, who were members of Ku Klux Klan? You're going to put them in? And obviously,
right?
Kennesaw Mountain Landis.
Really, I never heard that.
Yeah.
Well,
Or Kennesaw Mountain Landis, who kept blacks, specifically kept blacks out of baseball from 1921 until 1945. I think he died in 44. Anyhow, he kept them out all by himself. He's in the Hall of Fame, for heaven's sakes. He's in there. So
yeah, it's got to be revised. Only if for no other reason. How are you going to bring young kids into this thing? Who's going to go up to the no induction ceremonies?
Yeah, right.
All that you get.
I think you're going to see that it's changing. You're going to see a real shift. It's coming up. It's absolutely coming up. They put that they put one of the killer bees from Houston in, and everybody knows he was juicing. Tell me his name.
Oh, Bagwell.
Bagwell. Wonderful
How
Bagwell.
How does everybody know that? I never.
It's just they just seem to know that, or people who hit 500 home runs. Clearly, he's on draft. Well, the fact of the matter is nobody really knows. But right. I'm sure that there are voters who vote no because in their minds they've got those suspicions.
I have suspicions about Nolan Ryan, for instance. I don't.
Well, you should. You should, for crying out loud. You should. Now let me go back to your questioning about home runs today and how a little guy like Pinder can hit a ball 425 feet. And this has to do again with your weight training. And this weight training, which kids now start in high school, and they do with great purpose, now allows pitchers to throw the ball between 95 and 100 miles an hour. We have on the Tampa Bay Rays 4 or 5 pitchers who can throw 95. I mean, we never used to have that. Never. If you could throw 90, that was special in terms of speed. And now it's not special anymore. Every single pitcher throws 95. And what happens, of course, is these batters are so marvelous. We have this kid Stanek, who pitched against Oakland yesterday in the second game of the doubleheader. He threw 3 97 and 98 mile an hour pitches, single, double, home run. And you sit and look at it and you go, how do these guys do it? And you see the replay and, even though the ball's 97, they square up on that baseball and they whack it.
Yeah, maybe because it comes in on a straight line, it doesn't move.
Well, yes, that's part of it. And Stanek is a rookie, and he has not learned to throw something that isn't a fastball. So if you know the kid only throws a fastball, you wait for it.
You're sitting on it, right?
But still, I have gone to a batting cage where the machine throws 90. And the last time I did that, they throw 20 balls, and I missed 19 of them, and I barely fouled off one of them. I mean, 90 miles an hour is incredibly fast. But I've also, through my, being with Major League ball players, understand that these people are superhuman. I mean, they have skills that you can't believe just how skillful these people are. And they're able to hit it.
Ted Williams said squaring up a round baseball with a round bat is the single hardest thing to do in sports. And
I suspect that it is. And even the best hitter makes out 7 times out of 10. That's also true. But in this game, in this day and age, where you talk about home runs being the thing, we have one hitter. His name is Ricky Weeks. Ricky Weeks played for Milwaukee last year.
His brother played with the A's for a long time, for a little while.
Yeah.
Jamal.
Anyhow, this Weeks this year, playing for the Rays, batted 96 times. You can look him up. And he has struck out 49 of those 96 at-bats. I mean, and you've got, people on base where you'd like to move runners over. You want to bunt a little bit. You want to hit and run a little bit. Clearly, this guy is swinging for the fences.
And he's a second baseman. He's a second baseman. It's not like he's a power hitter.
For us, he's a first baseman. He's a first baseman for us. He's been playing first base for us. But the fact of the matter is, these people are swinging from their heels. It used
How many
to be
home
when
runs
you
does he have?
He's got one or two. I think one.
One or two.
In fact, I can tell you.
With all those strikeouts.
Oh yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's.
I can tell you exactly. I can tell you exactly what his record is, because he is on my reserve team. Ricky Weeks is. He has hit. Where is the old boy? Ricky Weeks. He has hit 2 home runs with 6 RBIs. And he's hitting a solid 216. But now that they've brought up other players, I don't think he's ever going to play again. He's on the DL. My guess is his career is pretty well done.
That's a good analogy of what's going on in the game.
Well, it's interesting to sit and watch. These guys are just throwing as hard as it could be, and yet the hitters are hitting it. I mean,
well, the trend is not to
really
have much of an off-speed pitch if you're relying on 95 miles an hour.
But if you don't have an off-speed pitch, you're going to get clocked. And Olstanek.
I ask you, if you only have a 90-mile-an-hour fastball with an off-speed of an amazing differential. For instance, if you have a 95-mile-an-hour fastball and your off-speed is 88, that's one thing. If you have one that's 90 and your off-speed is 70, you're more apt to fool batters in the long run. That's it.
Right.
That's how I look at it.
And yet they fool batters with that slider anyway. The difference between 95 and 87 with the slider, they still fool it because the ball comes up to the plate, and as soon as it approaches the plate, it drops like a rock, and they have to swing because they're throwing it so damn hard, and they swing and miss.
Well,
that's
part
of
today's
baseball.
Slider that you can consistently get over the plate.
Well, I'm talking about the pitchers who win. Sure.
Yeah, but there's an awful lot of pitchers throwing 98 miles an hour that don't win until they master the art of deception.
No question about it. Right.
Yeah.
Right. I know.
What are the changes in the game, Peter, from when we were kids, because we're about the same age, till now, that you like? Everybody who assumes you and we're all traditionalists and all this. But what are some of the for instance, the DH. It's been around a long time now, since the 70s. Are you glad it's in baseball?
Absolutely. I'm an American League guy. I don't like to watch the pitcher get up and make a fool out of himself. The pitchers hit on the average of something like, 140. It's a waste of an at bat. And if you've got a bad hitting shortstop, say, now you've got a bad hitting 8 guy and a bad hitting 9 guy. The thing that I love about the DH, and I've had this argument with the National Leaguers who, they want purity and the way it used to be and so forth and so on. Well, that's fine. I mean, I do think there is a real difference between National League ball and American League ball. And if you're in a National League city, what you love is the National League game, which is terrific. Mm-hmm. American League ball, you get to see some of these hitters, a Tomei, hitters, a Reggie Jackson, guys who later in their career can't necessarily play the field every day. This guy Morales from Toronto, for instance, Kendry Morales. He's not, there's no place where you can really play him. I suppose you could play him at first base, but they've got a first baseman who's better than he. But he gets to play every day, and he gets to hit. which
Right.
is absolutely fabulous.
But you miss that the little ball, don't you? You have to.
No, not for a second. No, I don't. I'm tired of pitchers bunting at balls and missing them, and and being out on the bunting a third strike, and generally looking terrible at the plate. There are one or two pitchers who can hit, but that's about it.
All right.
No, I don't miss it at all. And you're in San Francisco with the Giants, so I mean, I perfectly understand it. If you don't
I'm with the A's. I'm closer in proximity to where the A's are, right? Being in Alameda, and I talk about being blessed. Two teams.
Sure.
I lucked out in that way. Whether you like them or not, whether you get to see opponents coming in. You get it's terrific.
Absolutely.
All right. Let me ask you too. Putting together some questions in my head. The playability of Tampa Bay's team and not team, but the ball fields. Obviously, indoors, artificial turf. Have they come? You saw it the other way too. With the have they come to the point where it almost plays like grass?
We're getting there, except with the artificial turf, it's still tough on the players' knees. It's just tougher. You're stomping around like on a basketball court. It's softer than that, but it's still not grass. On the other hand, we have it's not a roof that goes back and forth. It's a dome, and so you need to have it because we don't get any sun in that building.
Right.
What we do have during the summer is 72 degrees and it's dry. We never have a rain out, which is a wonderful thing. In Tampa Bay right now, the Rays have been allowed to look outside of St. Petersburg. They can look in Tampa and see if there's some place where they'd prefer to play. And we'll probably know in a year or two, what it is they decide to do. Living in St. Petersburg,
will it be a dome stadium or will it be?
It'll be a retractable roof. It will be a retractable roof. The Rays made a design at where they wanted to put it on the water. We have a stadium in St. Petersburg called Al Lang Stadium.
Oh yeah,
which has subsequently been taken over by soccer. The Rowdies are now playing in that venue, and they're going to add 10,000 seats and make it an 18,000-seat stadium for soccer. But about
for those of you listening, don't realize the significance and how that hurts a baseball purist of any sort.
Oh, sure.
Al Lang Stadium housed in its day in spring training not only the Yankees but the Cardinals.
And the Baltimore Orioles, and it started way back. Al Lang was mayor about 1915 when Branch Rickey, who had I believe it was the St. Louis Browns back then, came to St. Petersburg with the very first spring training team.
I didn't know that.
And so our history for spring training is tremendous. The thing is, what happened was when the Tampa Bay Rays, it was then the Devil Rays, came to town. Apparently, there's a rule that if the team is in the town, you can't have spring training games in the same town. You have to go somewhere else. So they took their spring training to Port Charlotte, which is about an hour and 45 minutes south.
And the Yankees train.
Well, the Yankees left. Yankees left because St. Petersburg would not allow African American players, would not allow Ellie Howard to stay in their hotel, would not allow Ellie Howard to eat in their restaurants, and so Dan Topping decided, screw you, I'm going to take my team. He bought a hotel. He bought a hotel in Fort Lauderdale, and he moved the Yankees there. And that happened in the
late 50s.
Late 50s, early 60s. And of course, George Steinbrenner, after he bought the team in 1973, he moved the spring training to Tampa. So
right.
So that's the Al Lang deal. But the Rays proposed this magnificent stadium downtown on Al Lang Stadium. It was going to be an open-air stadium. It was one of the most beautiful things you've ever seen. And all of the big shots downtown started screaming, "Oh, too much traffic. They were going to have lights at night. We shouldn't do this." And unfortunately, we had a Republican mayor who did not, stand up for the plan, and it was voted down. So if St. Petersburg should lose this team to Tampa, that's why they're going to lose the team. It was going to be one of the most beautiful stadiums you've ever seen in your entire life, and the morons who live downtown in St. Petersburg voted it down.
Wow.
Unfortunately.
We echo what you're going through on the West Coast. In Oakland, they already lost the Raiders. They already lost the Warriors to San Francisco. They're building a new arena in San Francisco. And now they're trying to put together a deal for a stadium with the A's, and they'll do that by default. The city
they have to do it. They're not going to lose. They can't lose that team.
Right.
Well, you lose a Major League Baseball team, you are no longer a Major League city.
No question. And some of the teams that have Major League Baseball aren't Major League cities by the old standard. Certainly. Did
any teams in particular, Ralph?
Not St. Petersburg. I love St. Petersburg. I'm going to send you a picture. My uncle spent a man of recreation, who rode his bike around St. Petersburg for the last 20 years of his life. You must have known him. His name was Harold Niss. I'm going to send you a picture.
Harold, what's his last name?
Niss, Niss. And he wore a shirt from Brooklyn. This is back 20 years ago, and
I arrived in 1989, so you tell me when he was there.
Your paths definitely crossed.
Okay.
And I'll send you a picture. He would hit tennis. Well, I never asked you, are you a tennis player? Did you play tennis in your day?
Yes, I did today.
He played tennis off the wall and for hours. And you'd recognize him if you drove by and you watched him.
Okay.
He had this long, how in the old days, the toss, and I'm a tennis player. It's all in the toss and the serve.
Right. Okay.
And
he had a tall toss.
He had this high toss that a tennis player with a high toss who plays well. It's a beautiful thing to see when he waits for it to come down and timing. I'm sure over the years, just being
there are a lot of places to play tennis, so he could be at point A and I could be at point B.
I have his address. I'll find his address. He had tennis courts. It was Lakeshore Drive. Is that or maybe that's another address in my head. I'll send you his address, and there were tennis courts directly across from his apartment building. But again, he had the spirit, just like the fellow I'm referring to, Harold Niss, who was the youngest Merchant Marine captain in the history of the Merchant Marines. He was 26, and he was a frickin' captain, covering up the fact that he was a Jew, because as we know, all those things, and was a captain. And he took his Merchant Marine training here in Alameda, where I eventually came to spend the last 20 years of my life. So that his spirit is tied to both coasts. And
very nice.
I'll send you that picture. And
all right, good.
We'll go from there. So no, not St. Peter. I wouldn't name any of the towns because of the way the world, the country, because of television, because of the internet, we've become kind of homogenized in a way where you don't have to be Philadelphia to have a major league franchise. But not only because of that has expansion come too fast for that the quality of play was substantially reduced along the way.
Oh, heavens no. Heavens no. Oh, no.
Okay.
The quality of play today, it's almost light years ahead of what it was in the 50s and 60s. I've seen acrobatic plays by outfielders and infielders, plays they make with their athletic talent and their height. You know, these guys are 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", 6'5". Pitchers are now 6'7", 6'8". And they are as skillful and acrobatic as you could ever imagine. Mickey Mantle was 5'10" and a half. Yes, when he was a kid, he would go to the lead zinc mines and use a sledgehammer day after day after day, and he made himself one of the strongest people, you know, in baseball.
Right.
Today, these kids go to the gym and they work out with incredible weights, with trainers, 3-4 hours a day, every single day, including Christmas. I mean, it's why so many of these people end up on the DL. A lot of people are on the DL because they train more than they ought to. But because they train as hard as they can, their skills when they're healthy, oh my gosh, you've never seen anything like it. They climb the walls and make catches. They make throws that you couldn't believe. We have this guy, we have this guy, Colby Rasmus. Now, Colby Rasmus started with the Cardinals. And somehow, because of Colby Rasmus's father, got in touch with Tony La Russa. So they traded him away. And this year,
what was that about? What was that about?
La Russa just hated him. I don't know why he hated him, but he hated him. And that's not often. But Tony La Russa doesn't like being told what to do by the parents of his ball players. So at any rate, Rasmus was let go, and he was a free agent. And this year, the Tampa Bay Rays signed him. And the difference that this kid is making in our team is just astounding. He makes throws. He stands out in the outfield, and he throws home with such accuracy, or to second, with such accuracy and with such speed. It's like you can't believe that somebody could be that talented. And in a handful of bats, he's hit 10 home runs. He hit his 10th home run today. He hit the thing way over the center field wall off a pitch that came in at 96 miles an hour. You didn't see that in the 60s and the 70s. You did not.
Okay.
The skill of the players today, it's just astounding.
Do you have a bullpen this year? I know you were very low on.
We have people. We have players who are sitting out there. You know, whether they can.
Okay.
Whether they can.
Are they a little more effective than they were last year?
Yes, they are more effective than they are this year. We got this kid Stanek, who throws the ball 100 miles an hour, and against Oakland yesterday, he gave up 3 hits in a row. I told you the pitches were 97, 97, 98. He also struck out 5 of the 6 batters who he got out. So this kid's got real talent. He just has to learn how to.
Does he spell his name Stanek?
Yes, Stanek.
Is he a son of a fellow by the name of Al Stanek, who was a giant farmhand and maybe pitched a game or two for them?
I'll tell you, it certainly wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me at all.
I watched
know his
Al
pedigree.
Stanek throw a no-hitter, a 7-inning no-hitter in Springfield for the Springfield Giants in 1958 or something.
Well, you know, look him up. Look him up on your little machine.
I will. And
you'll find my boy Stanek, and we have another guy.
I'll look him up in MLB register, and they'll tell me if his dad is that. It's little things like that to keep my brain going.
Absolutely. Well, we have another guy named Alvarado, who we brought up from Montgomery, the second class Double A. This guy throws 97, 98 miles an hour also. You know, we figured out we didn't need the Farquhards and the finesse of the Farquhards. We needed people who could throw hard. And so our bullpen is a lot better.
Are you consequently higher on the manager than you were last year? And is it a matter with managers, if you got the players, you got the players. You look stupid going to the bullpen when a guy gets beat up, but if he sucks, time after time, when do you stop blaming the manager?
It's a lot. You scream at the manager much less often when the team is winning.
Right.
Yes, he does stupid things like a guy gives up 3 hits in a row and he still doesn't get anybody else up to warm up just in case the guy can't get anybody else out. I mean, you pull your hair out. But again, if they're winning, the thing about managers in today's game is that the two most important things that a manager does is A, does exactly what the front office tells him to do. That's the main reason that Kevin Cash is the manager of the Tampa Bay Rays, because
and
they said,
Kevin Collins is the manager of the Giants of the Mets
of the New York Mets for the same reason. His general manager said, "You can be the manager, but you've got to do exactly what I tell you to do." And so they go, "Yes, sir." So they take the $600,000 or $700,000 very nicely and have a nice life with that. But they're not necessarily the best managers in the world because they're not their own people. The other thing that's important for a manager is that he get along with his players, that to make his players feel comfortable, make his players feel relaxed, make his players feel loved. I mean, these are kids. These kids are 22, 23, 24 years old. My son's 29, for crying out loud. You know, these guys are all younger than my son, which I never, ever in a million years thought was possible. But it's true. I mean, just
Peter,
because
my son
they're
is 28, and I feel the exact same way.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right.
How did it go? How did the years go by so fast? That's another thing. When I was a kid, they say, "Oh, just enjoy it day to day because time moves faster as you get older." And damned if it doesn't.
Damned if it doesn't. That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. No, I know. But as I said, these are kids who are playing, and the coach has to coddle them and has to make them feel wanted and has to, of course he's got to put the right people in the right spots. But then again, you're usually having the general manager with his mounds and mounds of statistics, which are dictating who's going to play and where they're going to play on the field. I mean, one of the things there are two things that drive me crazy, quite frankly. One of them is when right-handed batters get up, they play them, they put the shift on against them. So they take the second baseman and put him to the left of second base, and they move the shortstop over, and you've got the third baseman where he is. And so you've got everybody on the left side, and you've got the entire right side open from the first baseman to second base. And I am telling you, more often than not, the right-hand hitter puts the ball in that hole. It's just crazy. Now, for a left-hand hitter, it's a different story. They have wrecked the careers of many a left-hand hitter with their shifts. And the Rays, the Tampa Bay Rays, do more shifts, I think, than any other team in baseball. So we've been very, very successful against the left-hand hitting batters.
Peter, let me throw this out to you because I've never heard this. Do you remember in the old days when you'd have a utility infielder, or maybe you could say the greatest utility man of all time, Jackie Robinson. He went from first base to second base to third base to left field, okay, as an example.
Pete Rose.
Right, same thing.
Pete Rose was was an all-star in 5 different positions.
Exactly. Made it very interesting, and it's a great history. But remember how each position requires a different set of muscle tone or muscles action. You make a throw from second base, it's different than from third base. And the pivots, everything is different. And what I see in the shift is you have, from play to play, players playing in positions, obviously, shifted
Right.
positions, that they're not accustomed to, they weren't trained for. So you've got your second base, you got your shortstop playing over, to the right of second base, and he's fielding the ball at a different angle than he's used to. I wonder if, because players are human and they're trained a certain way and they see the ball off the bat a certain way, I wonder if all the shifting isn't diminishing the defensive skills, because what do? You respond differently when you get the ball in different positions. And
you're absolutely right.
Like, does that
right.
A, contribute to injuries, and B, contribute to just poor overall play? And does that maybe offset putting players in the exact position, or
I saw statistics that said that the shift gives the team almost no advantage over playing straight up, because of the players who bust the shift by hitting to the opposite field, or because players are in funny positions, as you're talking about, and have difficulty, for instance, making a double play because everybody's on the same side of the ball, for instance.
Right.
And you're not doing it the way that you're used to doing it. And it's interesting to watch. Today, for instance, in the ninth inning against Oakland, the first two batters hit the ball. They were both right-handed batters, and in both of those batters, we played the second baseman, the third baseman, and the shortstop all on the same side. And for the first two batters, they hit the ball in the hole. I mean, crack. They hit the ball in the hole. First and second, nobody out. And we were just damn lucky to get out of that. But if you'd played the guy straight up, or without that stupid shift, you'd have had two outs, no problem. So, you're absolutely right. You're right about that. Now, the other thing, you'd asked me about the other thing that just bugs the crap out of me. And that is that every time the ball is pitched and falls into the dirt, they throw the ball out. And this just makes the game a half an hour longer. They must throw 100 balls out every game. And it's just, I have yet to have somebody explain to me the importance of doing that.
Right.
Do you know?
No, I do. Because staying on the ball, you want it to be pristine.
Staying on the ball, they used to, in the 1920s, use the same ball for the whole game.
That's true.
And they had licorice, and they had tobacco juice, and by the time the ninth inning rolled around, that ball was black. So it makes me kind of laugh. It seems kind of persnickety.
I want to add one thing we were talking about that, the McGuire, the Sosa, those home run races and what have you. Baseball, they were coming off that strike. Baseball was about...
No, it was not a strike, Ralph. It was not a strike. It was a lockout. Do not call it a strike. It was a lockout. The owners locked out the players. The owners were trying to break Marvin Miller's strength of the union, and they failed.
I misspoke, but my point was not to talk about that. My point was to mention that those home runs, steroids induced or not, saved the game of baseball.
No question. No question about it. Right.
I'll tell you the person I feel the most sorry for, the whole family, Mrs. Marison and her family, who played along good-naturedly and were depicted in Billy Crystal's wonderful 61. I think that was the entire name of the documentary / movie. I just do feel sorry.
Why do you feel bad for Mrs. Maris? Why?
Well,
they were thrilled. They were thrilled by what McGuire was doing. It brought Roger back to life for a moment. Mrs. Maris was thrilled. The two kids who were there got hugs from McGuire after he hit the 62nd. It was wonderful for those people. I don't feel sorry for Mrs. Maris. Mrs. Maris.
Well, not from when she was going through it, but after that, when it was pretty much proven that McGuire was juicing, and the philosophy that we're coming to of, just accepting it era by era, that wasn't in vogue back then. There were people really angry at the skewing of the records. Let's put it that way.
Well, they're still angry. People were angry when Babe Ruth was hitting all those home runs. Ty Cobb hated Babe Ruth. You son of a bitch! You ruined our game. You ruined it for us, Ruth.
Right. Interesting article that Gene Hutmaker, who was a guest on our show a while ago, if you remember, passed on in Facebook that how many home runs Ruth would have hit were the rules not changed or the same as they are now. For instance, if one hit a walk-off home run with a runner on first, when that runner scored, the home run wasn't counted. The home run wasn't counted as a home run. So Ruth would have had even more home runs than
wow, that's really something.
Yeah, and he cited some other rules, and I skimmed the article really quick and didn't have it.
Wow.
And it's posted on the Comfortably Zoned group on Facebook. He was nice enough to post it there, and it cites he had Gretzky-like numbers. That's how I describe it. So far ahead of the rest of his peers that. Someday we'll do a show and just talk about the great Babe Ruth.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I wrote a book called The 100-Year-Old Yankee. I haven't sold it yet. One of these days I will.
Oh, wow.
It's about a fellow who started. No, this is a fella who in this sort of novel. The only part of the novel is the fact that the guy never existed. But he starts with the Yankees around 1920. And he stays with the Yankees until George Steinbrenner fires him in the 1990s. But it's a really interesting sort of history of baseball.
And I will ask you one more question. Months ago, we talked about I wish you luck with that. And I didn't realize that you wrote books and then sold them. I thought.
Well, when you write novels, you have to.
Okay. I thought it was the reverse as
no.
That.
But with nonfiction, you write book proposals. With novels, you write the novel. Yeah.
Gotcha. And I just lost my train of thought. I was going to ask you one more thing.
Well, have a great week, Ralph.
I will. Thank you, Peter. This is fun for me. As you know, next week we'll bring the Maven back, Alan Blumkin. And who's just not a big fantasy guy. The question I wanted to ask you, did you play simulation games as a kid?
Of course I did. I did. You started with All-Star Baseball, where you spun the arrow.
Right.
You start with that. And go from there to APBA, where you throw the 3 dice. And we used to have leagues. Sure. By all means.
Do you know that these games have been recreated on the computer?
I've been told they have been. Yeah, I've been told they have.
I'd like you to look into some of them.
Not going to happen. Not going to happen. I'm playing in a rotisserie baseball league, and that's plenty. I don't need to spend my time on the computer doing something else. Not going to happen. No.
Okay. I just thought it might enrich your life, and sometimes it's nice to go, come on, Yogi, hit the ball.
Yeah, my life is rich enough. My life is rich enough. Thank you.
Oh, I know it
Very
is.
rich.
If for no other reason, you abound in Wendy's.
I do.
Okay.
In fact, right now I'm going to hang up and go back to mine.
Beautiful. We had a great show. I enjoyed it. Everybody out there, keep on keeping on. Peter and I and Alan Golenbock, the third baseball Michiganer, will be back next week. Adios, everybody.